All right, nothing gets my heart pumping more like seeing two of my favorite superheroes teaming up in a scene. I honestly think that superhero duos like Deadpool and Wolverine are peak cinema, and here's why. First off, when I say duos, I'm not talking about superhero teams. I don't mean your Avengers or your Justice Leagues, nor do I mean superhero duos that have a romantic connotation like your Icarus and Circe's, or your Daredevil and Echoes, or Daredevil and She-Hulk, or Daredevil and Black Widow, or Daredevil and Elektra. Damn, Daredevil gets around. What I'm focusing on is the one-on-one partnership that's mainly platonic and has the proclivity to be awesome when seen.
Just like Budapest all over again.
Yeah, those kind of partnerships. I think some of the best kind of duos in the comic landscape that I find fascinating are those duos that not typically are born out of friendship or admiration. It usually comes out of necessity and the need to face a common goal or enemy, and it's always riddled with betrayals and constant headbutting. Now, looking outside of the comic media, we've had a lot of famous duos, right? We've had Sherlock and Watson, which is a very good example of how opposites attract. We got Frodo and Samwise from Lord of the Rings. We got J&K from Men in Black, Mario and Luigi, and of course, SpongeBob and Patrick. I know, I just had to throw that one in there. Even in the anime landscape, we've had some heavy hitters like Goku and Vegeta, Naruto and Sasuke, Gon and Killua, Edward and Alphonse from Full Metal Alchemist. One thing that I love about these duos that I've mentioned is that there's a true sense of loyalty and camaraderie between these two characters. They tend to have common interests and common goals and sincere care for one another, and it translates to the screen in a pretty interesting way that really resonates with the audience. Now, in other comic book universes, I think DC probably has some of the best duos that I've ever seen. For example, they have Green Arrow and Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. That's a pretty good one. You got Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, which is an unlikely pair that enticed fans for years in the end. The famous Batman and Robin, even though, to be fair though, that's more of a mentor-apprentice relationship. And my personal favorite from DC, which is Superman and Batman, which is probably one of the best duos that's out there. Now, don't be fooled by what you saw in Batman versus Superman. In the comics, these two guys are really good friends, a relationship that's heavily showcased in DC's animated media, with one of my favorites being the animated movie Superman and Batman Public Enemies. Now, in this movie, Lex Luthor becomes president and convinces the world that Superman is an enemy. So both heroes and villains end up coming for Clark. So he teams up with Batman, and then we get to see some peak duo action out there. There was just an allure to watching two able-bodied and competent heroes that we know and love teaming up to face a threat. And that's something that is largely echoed in the Marvel comics as well as in the MCU. Now, the MCU has given us some iconic, and I mean iconic, partnerships that have entertained as well as intrigued us for the longest time. We got Thor and Loki, probably one of my favorites here. Although not traditional, it works. Ever since they teamed up in Thor: The Dark World, although that's not a great movie per se, in Ragnarok, and with everything that they've been through together across the movies in the MCU, their partnerships to me has been one of that really seems to warm us all up. And I know a lot of us are just hoping again that we can see the new reformed Loki meet up with the new reformed Thor in the MCU one day again. And then we got Black Widow and Hawkeye, which is another one there. Now, these two, they know each other through and through. They're like brother and sister, although something else must have happened in the past if you catch my drift. But we saw that dynamic in all the Avengers movies, particularly in Endgame, when we had to watch them attempt to sacrifice each other.
No. Please, no.
I gotta be honest with you, right? Like, every single time I see that scene, I kind of tear up just a little bit. Captain America and Falcon, they're also cool. And say what you want to say about Sam Wilson as Falcon, dude is loyal to a fault when it comes to Steve Rogers, so much so that he actually became a fugitive of the law after the events of Civil War just to stay by this man's side. We got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was really cool. We also have Iron Man and War Machine. And to me, that's another one that's really fun to see. There's also Loki and Mobius. Man, that was really good. Groot and Rocket. You got Gamora and Nebula. And technically, Mark Spector and Stephen Grant, although if we're going to be technical again, they're in the same body. So I guess that doesn't fully count.
This is so wrong. This is so wrong. Steven, I'm sorry.
Spider-Man and this guy in the chair, and of course Spider-Man and Iron Man, although once again that is more of a mentor sort of apprentice relationship. And then last but not least, we got Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I'm sure that there's some others that are out there that you could point out, but I'm gonna leave that up to you in the comments. If there's one thing that I think that each of these duos have in common, is the fact that each of these guys and gals, they care about each other deeply. They have a relationship of trust and respect, love and admiration. There's really not a lot of animosity between them. Some of these guys will go to the depths of hell for their partner, and they will sacrifice their lives and free them so that the other one can be saved. Like Black Widow sacrificing herself for Clint, or Captain America sacrificing his freedom for Bucky Barnes. I mean, yes, when it comes to the action and fighting, these dudes definitely stand on business. But I think that dynamic of mutual respect, playful banter, and the willingness for sacrifice that makes these superhero duos very fascinating to me. Now, the friendship between the two superheroes adds an emotional layer that humanizes the characters and makes their stories more compelling. Iconic duos like Superman and Batman are very good examples of this. Superhero duos also represent a difference in ideologies, where both characters have a different approach to heroism than the other. For example, we got Captain America and Iron Man. They butt heads often, right? Though they're technically not a duo in the movies though, but they banter so much that they might as well be one. Captain America Civil War is a very good example of what conflicting ideologies of heroism look like, where each person does what they feel is right and it ends up conflicting with each other. And it always seems like these two people can simply overcome their differences by just having a conversation, but they won't. So I guess the movie continues to be exciting from that dynamic. I think this kind of duo represents another kind of partnership in comic media, a more humane system that's different from the Wolverine and the Deadpool relationship. And like I said, these kind of partnerships usually tend to have mutual respect, mutual love and admiration. And then we have Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, before I go on, if you are enjoying this video so far, please consider hitting that like button and also subscribe to our channel to become a part of the community of nerds that we're building here over at Keepin It Comic. We appreciate you and thank you. Now, as it pertains to Deadpool and Wolverine, this is a kind of relationship that on paper shouldn't work because both characters are very different, and whenever they're in the same room together, there is a cause for concern and safety for the well-being of everyone that's around. Honestly, the relationship between Deadpool and Wolverine is toxic as heck, to say the least. For the most part, it's just stab, maim, decapitate, and repeat. And then occasionally, they get beard together. Like, what? Now, in the comics, Logan decapitates Wade in Cable in Deadpool issue number 43. Wade and shoots him in the back in issue number 9. Even in Wolverine Origins, we see, even though that there's like mutual respect between the two, these two guys just really want to kill each other. The sheer amount of violence that their relationship has put us through is daunting as it is hilarious. Now, Wolverine's first appearance is in 1974, Incredible Hulk comic here. Now, Deadpool's first appearance was in the New Mutants 98 in 1991. And from the first time that these two met each other, they just kind of hated each other. Genetically speaking, Wade first met Logan in Deadpool Nerdy 30 when Logan crashes into his prom night while fighting Hydra agents, and then Wade ends up getting handcuffed to Logan and fights alongside him. Yes, Wade was still funny and he even used an electric guitar to smash an agent's face in, but Wade hadn't become Deadpool at the time. Their first official meeting was in Wolverine number 88 when Logan had a discrepancy with Wade while he was trying to unalive his ex-girlfriend Vanessa and her new boyfriend Garrison Kane, who happens to be a buddy of Wolverine. Safe to say that the two get into it and then Wade stabs him through the chest with two swords. Classic Deadpool. Wade and Wolvie have always been contentious since their first official fight happened in that issue. And technically, that's not even the first time that they met. That whole idea got retconned when Deadpool captured Wolverine in 2008 Wolverine Origins, where Wade kidnaps Logan after being hired by the Winter Soldier, but it was all a plot by Wolverine to draw his son Dakin. And the fight between the two in that comic was hilarious to say the least. Now, in the early comics, we get a sense of the dynamic between Wade and Logan being an adversarial one, because speaking based on temperament, they are plain opposites yet extremely similar. An unlikely pair of seriousness and an unseriousness, brawn and funny, a comic equivalent to like the yin and yang, right? So Logan is someone who kind of hates himself and dislikes his immortality, while Deadpool is someone who loves himself and enjoys his immortality to a certain extent. Logan doesn't enjoy taking the lives of people, but Deadpool has no problem doing it, especially in sick and creative ways. And that's surprisingly one of Logan's biggest reservations about Deadpool. It's his love for killing people, and I'm not even kidding. We see this in the comic iterations like Wolverine Annual released in 1995, where Logan reluctantly teams up with Maverick to save Wade from an evil organization trying to use Wade's blood to cure a mutant illness. Sure, Wolverine agrees to save him, but best believe he wasn't really happy about it, mainly because Deadpool consistently gets under Wolverine's skin. Like in Deadpool issue number 27, when Wade has a serious case of hallucinations and depression, he decides to start a fight with Wolverine by using a Street Fighter move to sucker punch Kitty Pryde. The fight gets so heated that Deadpool manages to send Logan into his wild and feral state by literally making him crazy, and yet somehow Wade manages to calm him down with that damn mouth of his. It was honestly fun to see. At the end of that comic, Logan teaches Deadpool how to control his head and helps him cure his hallucination problem by improving his mental health. And I think it's one of the best things about Logan and Deadpool's relationship. It is that although they are somewhat very different individuals, anytime that they meet up, the two are better for it. Logan always realizes that despite his frivolity, there's something admirable about Wade Wilson. Deadpool and Wolverine is an unconventional relationship, which is what makes it perfect. I think Wade and Logan's partnership really starts hitting off in Wolverine Annual 99 when he and Wade team up to find a werewolf named Vest. They end up fighting a pack of werewolves, and then Wolverine finally delivers a punch to Wade and says their beef is over, and then the two share a bear and do a little bonding over their shared trauma of being in the Weapon X program. But that doesn't mean that they're suddenly friends, right? Because Logan ends up on a Wade hit list later on, and in Wolverine issue number 154, they have another serious battle, but Wade only does the whole thing to save his friend Teresa Cassidy, who has a serious illness, and a shadow organization called the Watchtower tries to use Logan's blood to save her, and strangely, Wolvie didn't hold it against Wade. There's a huge rivalry between the two, one that's echoed throughout a lot of their comic series. Their relationship goes deeper than just hate though. There's still a grudge and respect between the two. We see this in the Deadpool Weapon X series, where Deadpool gets recruited to a new Weapon X program, but then their partnership goes airy, so they kill Wade leaving just his hand, and then they mail that hand to Logan. When Logan sees this, he's actually sad, and he buries Wade's hand with his suit, and then suddenly Deadpool regenerates from that hand and pops out of the grave like a zombie. So then Deadpool returns a sentiment in Wolverine's issue number 13, where after Wolverine dies, Wade pretends to be Wolverine for a while and accidentally stabs himself in the head. It was really kind of funny. They have also teamed up time and time again in the X-Men comics, in the X-Force comics, and recently in Deadpool and Wolverine WW3, which I've actually covered here on this channel, so you should definitely go check that out after this. Now, sometimes they're consistently at each other's necks, and other times they're the best buds. I think the reason why Wade and Logan's relationship is so perfect is that despite their difference in characters and moral codes, they do have shared trauma. They both were victims of the Weapon X program. They both are a little crazy, and yes, their abilities are similar, especially due to their healing factor. I think this is very much true because they have the kind of relationship where they don't have to be overly cautious with each other. One where they can both mortally wound each other over and over again, but they know that each other person is going to be all right. And that's the kind of relationship where no matter how much I hurt you, you're going to get up and hurt me back. They don't have to hold back with each other, and in a lot of ways, they understand each other. That's something that I think is going to translate well to television. A marriage of inconvenience, one that's funny and serious at the same time, a perfect blend of comical yin and yang. It just works. Also, given the dynamic of these two boneheads, one thing that I'm very curious about in the upcoming movie is that for the most part, Deadpool and Logan are not large-scale tackling personalities. Their stories usually don't involve those incredibly high stakes or sky beams. It's nothing like a world-ending or universe-ending crisis. So I think it would be very interesting to see them tackle affairs, including the multiverse, situations that they're not really used to. So that's it for me, guys. Check out this next video here where we discuss how Deadpool and Wolverine will be breaking the multiverse. Like and subscribe for more. Let me know what you think about this here in the comments. How do you feel about superhero duos? Do you think that they're peak cinema? And how do you think Deadpool and Wolverine are going to perform here on the stage? Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much, as always, for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic.